Hey, everybody. Glad to have you back. This is Dawn Zoldi, CEO of P3 Tech Consulting, and welcome to the Dawn of Drones podcast. We are rounding out an incredible first kickoff month of high impact use cases here. And so thanks again to White Fox Defense Technologies for sponsoring this entire month. If you followed us on our journey, we started with counter UAS, which enables all these other high impact use cases, frees up the sky for the compliant people. And we talked about everything from drone disinfecting to wildland firefighting. And today we are so honored to have with us Paul Huish from DroneHive. We're going to talk about drone support to critical infrastructure and also to the environment. So Paul's doing amazing things. He's based out of Utah, and he actually is also sponsoring this particular episode. So thanks so much, Paul, for joining us.
Hey, my pleasure. Happy to be here. And, thanks for all that you're doing for the industry, Dawn, and just raising awareness and sharing the stories of what's going on, today in reality, and helping to propel all this forward.
Well, it's a booming industry, and it's only going to keep getting better. And for everybody out there, by the way, this is a live stream. So if you're with us, please drop some notes in the chat, say hello, tell us where you're from, ask us questions. I mean, we're here for you. Right? As Paul said, we're here to help elevate the industry, and we'd love to engage with you. So anyway, I met Paul, a while ago, because Paul, you're a great supporter of women in drones. And I know you're a corporate member there.
Yes, Talinda Larson got us involved in that quite some time ago. And, where we are and kind of our nexus of the industry, we're dealing with so many people, the pilots, the clients, the end users. And I recognized a long time ago that it was always men. And we want to change that, right? And we want this industry to look a little bit different. And it's changing. And we're happy to be supporting women in drones and, just again, trying to educate everybody out there about these opportunities and that they are very achievable for a more diverse workforce.
And on that note, Paul, I also interviewed you more recently for Inside Unmanned Systems magazine, just did a whole big, I'll call it expose on drone support to critical infrastructure. For those of you that were at AUVSI, Richard Fisher was there, handing out copies of that magazine. And Paul, tell us, before we get into all the support you're giving to critical infrastructure, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing? Well, first of all, tell us in general about DroneHive.
Okay, it's a good place to start.
Yeah.
We are an aerial operations company. We're experts in unmanned aviation operations, and our role in this industry is to help it scale and grow. And how do we do that? By providing local resources, local piloting, and aerial operations support for our clients so that they can gather the data that they need to make more intelligent business decisions, and ultimately improve their businesses, improve critical infrastructure, improve society, drones for good, and all of these things. That a wonderful tool is really just providing better data, better intelligence around our world, and hoping to make society better. And so we help manage the field operations, flight planning, training, compliance, FAA authorizations for all of our operations, and we do that throughout North America. And we're actively managing teams internationally now too, Chile, Peru, Mexico, Brazil, South Africa, Australia, for North American-based corporations that have interest and want to do work in those nations.
Well, how did you even get started, Paul, in drones in general? And then as a follow-on, I know I'm asking a compound question, which I'm sensitive to as an attorney, but how did you get started in drones? And then why did you start DroneHive?
It's been 6 years since I thought about starting DroneHive. And it's been a wild ride. Of course, we've all been through, kind of the waiting game and the technology changes. But to answer your question, I invested in a drone company with some friends. And one of the early investor reports said access to drone pilots was an issue. And at the time, I was working at a company that managed a contract workforce for FDA regulated companies. So heavily regulated environment, contract workforce. We were deploying teams for pharmaceutical, medical device companies to solve their problems. And we'll get to how that relates to DroneHive in a minute. But I started looking into this industry and realizing, wow, this could be like cell phones changing the world. And man, is there a way to get involved? Well, after I read about this investor report and the challenge with access to drone pilots, I started to do some research and realized, this is a real challenge, and we need pilot involvement. There is going to be human involvement with these autonomous machines, and who's going to manage that workforce? And I looked into it, and there was one company that I saw had an approach. And, I wasn't sure whether that's the right approach, but I knew that I had experience in building teams, managing contract labor. And that was my world for, 10 years of my career. So I saw a need, I saw an opportunity, and I worked with my current boss at the time to figure out what the best way was to go about doing this. Do we start a new division of our existing company? Do we start a new company? But I was, in the thick of it with Valorant at the time. So Christmas came around, and my boss came to me and he said, Paul, this is a great idea. This is a great opportunity, and you don't need me. You're ready. So he gave me the blessing and kind of pushed me out of the nest, and I started DroneHive in January of 2016, and the rest is history. So we've been operating successfully now for 5.5 years. We're all employee owned and operated. We've moved the business from California to Utah, and really starting to see hyper growth, and just supporting so many different aspects of aerial data collection across many different industries. I think that answers the compound question too, right?
A little bit, yeah. It's funny because I ask these long questions and I realize people really don't want to talk about themselves very much. They focus on their business and kind of how it started, but what background? I mean, clearly you said you have this contract and management, logistical background, but what kind of led up to that? What were you said you worked in contracts, but
yeah,
tell us a little bit about that journey that led you to this.
I guess I'm just an entrepreneur. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My great uncle, my great grandfather, my uncles, my father, all have started and operated their own businesses. So I guess it was in my blood, and I was just waiting for the time and being a mature enough individual to go out on my own and have the confidence that I could be successful. And I guess it was just serendipity where I happened to invest in a drone startup. I happened to get some insight into where the future of the industry was going. I had the regulatory experience working a lot with the FDA and understanding how important compliance and regulatory documentation and safety management systems and all of that is to a highly regulated environment, and what a challenge that imposes on businesses operating in that environment. And that ultimately we weren't going to be a technology company. We were going to be an aviation company, and kind of thinking about it a little bit differently. So I guess it was just a curious sequence of events throughout my life that led up to this. I mean, my first job out of college at Lehigh University was working on Wall Street for a couple of years. And I think what was cool for me about that was, I'm just curious, and I'm always trying to read and learn more about different types of businesses, business models. How do you generate revenue? And then, of course, the big component on that is managing people, because you need to build teams, you need to be a leader. And that's a real big challenge, especially when you're dealing with a remote workforce, 1099 employees, and just dealing with personalities can be challenging. So
absolutely,
all of those things kind of led me into this role. And that's where we find ourselves, is managing the workforce and dealing with all these people, dealing with all of the different shapes, sizes, experiences, backgrounds that come from the remote piloting workforce. And so that's where our expertise lies. And we take on that burden for our customers so that they can focus on their expertise, which is probably analytics or virtual agronomy or, repairing critical infrastructure, all of these things. So we manage just sorry about that.
All right.
The
It's
collection.
Zoom life, right? It's like
Yeah.
always something. Yes. So yeah, no, that was yeah. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm great. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but that was just kind of summarizing it. It's just here we are, managing the field operations and the workforce for our clients so that they get the data that they need, where they need it, when they need it. They don't have to worry about it. They can just say, okay, the data is going to be uploaded on this date, and we can start processing and analyzing and making decisions based on that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it was a huge blessing for your previous boss to say, leave the nest, fly, be free, because clearly, like you said, you were ready, you have this in your blood. So tell us a little bit about this unique model you've created. I mean, you've kind of alluded to it, but, and in fact, you mentioned that as you did your research before you created the startup, DroneHive, 5, 6 years ago, you saw other models and you decided to maybe go a slightly different direction. Explain kind of how DroneHive is different maybe from these other service provider networks, if you will, that are out there. What makes you different?
I think that we fit kind of the medium tier of drone service providers. We're not the biggest, but we certainly work and even hire and partner with the smaller local drone service providers. And we all need each other to survive, right? Because we all fit in a different niche and need and the type of client that we service. So my approach came from my experience. I started to think that, Uber, people are saying, oh, so you want to be the Uber of drones? No, we actually don't want to be the Uber of drones, because I felt as if Uber was taking advantage of their workforce and not really treating them fairly. And that's such a huge, huge company. That seems kind of overwhelming for me to kind of even have that type of a goal or manage that type of a company. And so we took more of a hands-on approach, more of a direct approach. And that kind of goes back to our philosophy as a company of really, we've got two client bases, right? Because we're not only competing for business, we're competing for labor. And so when we pick up the phone, when we call our pilots, we want them to say, oh, great. Yeah, DroneHive, those guys, they always speak with me directly. I can pick up the phone and call someone. They help me with the mission planning. They've got someone on staff who helps manage all of the FAA authorizations. We want them to feel like they're part of a team and have support and are actually, interacting with DroneHive corporate, if it were, right?
Right.
And so you can't do that through an app. It's a lot of touch points. Now that, of course, touch points take time and all of those things. So we have automated a lot of our processes, but I really don't want to go away from that human component, the human interaction. And so before we even contact people for jobs, we try to put them through an introductory call, tell them what it's going to be like for working for us, fill out a profile for them, take some notes, ask them about what they like to do for fun. What else, how do they get into drones? So we have a unique profile for this individual. And so that's why we only have about 1,700 pilots versus 10,000. And we probably need that many because everybody's getting so busy, right? If I have 10 pilots in Nashville and I call them in the summertime, 6 of them are going to be busy because they've got flights with other drone service providers, their own clientele,
Yeah.
And the industry is growing. So that's kind of where we find ourselves. And, the approach, I think, was just based on my experience as a professional and how I would want to be treated and kind of seeing the landscape out of a unique perspective, perhaps. And so, we were a little bit different, but it seems to be working. And we're growing. And so as long as we can continue to grow and hire more internal employees to keep up with that human interaction, I think that we're on the right trajectory.
Well, we have a fan out there, Brett Fedderson. He's actually the president of Accelerate out of DC, and retired Army and senior executive service. So Brett says, thank you for sharing your story. What a great concept. And it is, so there are a lot of service providers that do watch this podcast, Paul, and listen to it. So, what are those prerequisites? Do you have special requirements for folks to join that group of 1,700 elite providers that you have across the country?
There are requirements, but this is a beautiful thing about this industry, is that becoming a remote pilot in command is a low barrier to entry job. And that's going to foster diversity, and it's going to foster opportunity for people who may not otherwise have access to it. You do not need to have a college degree to be a very skilled and successful UAS operational, pilot, program manager, all of these things. So experience is less important to us. And we've learned that over the years, that sometimes, the individual who's flown 200 cell towers, that's awesome. We love that. They understand the airspace, they understand the technology, the hardware, the software. But at the end of the day, we may be doing it differently. We're going to have to train them up on a new process. It may be uncomfortable and unfamiliar to them. They may have a hard time unlearning bad habits or how they did it in the past. But if they're willing to learn and have a good attitude and are pleasant to be around, we're focusing more and more on soft skills and reliability, being punctual, being, honest. Those are the most important skill sets when we're looking for support out in the field. And then, of course, access to equipment is helpful. And then in a lot of cases now, with more advanced sensors, we're providing that equipment. Again, we're providing the training once we've secured the pilot and let them know that, yes, we want to move ahead, but we need to train you on this specific type of aerial data collection. And we're finding that, some of the new entrants who are eager, process-oriented, familiar with software because they've grown up on iPads and with apps, they may be just as great out in the field after only 40 hours of flight time as the pilot with 400 hours of flight time. And the way the industry is moving, more and more of this is automated. It's becoming robotic workflow management and less of on the stick flying. So that's really becoming more of our focus. And so when we have people come to us who have worked with a lot of these applications and flight planning and understand the airspace, those are the key skills that we're really looking for when we're getting new signups for our network. And how that works is they go online, they fill out a form. That goes into the queue. We always are a little bit behind, so I apologize that it may take some time for us to get back to you. But we're processing those, and we reach out, send an email, set up a phone call, walk them through, answer any questions about what we're doing, what they can expect from us, different types of clients that we work with. And then they're kind of in the holding stage. And as soon as we get a job in the area, we start reaching out directly, email and phone call, to let them know about the opportunity. And if they're available, they're okay with the workflow, the demands, the timeline, the pay, they can accept. And then we'll screen them for the position, build out the team, and then start the planning, the deployment.
Paul, I think you're so smart to focus on also on soft skills, because honestly, you're one of the first people I've heard say that, in this context. And it's so important because we always talk about public acceptance for this industry and how it continues to be a challenge. And, depending on if you look at it as an opportunity or a hurdle, you want people out there that can work with the public, that are going to put on, right, a positive face for what is happening with those drones. And so thanks for doing that, because you're actually helping elevate the entire industry through these service providers, every single one of them, right? Brett will relate to this, right? In the military, we would always say, that tactical soldier can do one thing that has a strategic impact. And that is so true of drone pilots, regardless of what job they're doing. which is probably a great segue into, let's talk about those jobs, and let's talk first about critical infrastructure. So again, I commend everybody to go back and check out that Inside Unmanned Systems article. I posted it all over LinkedIn this week, and it's also my P3 Tech Consulting website under the Unmanned Systems magazine tab. But so we know there are 16 sectors of critical infrastructure in this country, right? So it's DHS kind of divided the world into those sectors, at least in the United States. You mentioned cell towers, right? So that's the communications sector.
Yes.
How are people supporting that? Because frankly, drones are supporting every facet, every single one of these sectors. And I know you have people out there doing the same. So we now know how they plug into this work through you. What kind of things are they doing there?
You know, a lot. So all the way from when they're building a new cell tower and helping to plan that out, figure out where they're going to build it, so getting the modeling of the earth so that they can do the due diligence on whether or not they want to install it where, what type of, tower they're going to install. There are three main types. Of course, now we're getting into more and more unmanned inspection, and sending in a team to do the inspection of the cell tower for the health of the equipment, but also looking at opportunity. What real estate is available on that cell tower? So T-Mobile can then install a new communication RAD next to Verizon's. They'll be on the same cell tower, but so people are selling the real estate on existing cell towers instead of building new ones.
Yeah.
And
Smart.
then, of course, all of the repair work, before and after hurricanes, all of those things. Now, there still is very much manned inspection going on, and I don't think that'll ever go away because ultimately that's how they repair it also.
Yeah.
But kind of like the cursory first pass. And then we're doing some pretty cool stuff. It's less inspection, but it's really important to the industry. And we're testing for some very large telecommunication company what it's like and how stable it is to fly UAS over a cellular network, and what is that like when you go from one cell tower to the other?
Yeah.
Living in San Francisco, there was a spot on the Golden Gate Bridge where you knew you were switching cell towers from San Francisco to Marin because there was always this little gap when you were talking on the phone. You'd have a couple of seconds where you lost reception, and there you go. Well, we can't have a couple of sections of lost communication of when a drone is flying over a cellular network for beyond.
No, that could be really
exactly
tragic, actually. Yeah.
So we need to make sure it's safe and collect this data to prove to the FAA that it is safe and that we are ready to fly drones over cellular networks for beyond visual line of sight. So that's some of the work that we're doing that is less about inspection, but more still data collection that's going to help propel the industry forward. And then one cool one that has come to us, we didn't get involved with this. I don't know if this will ever be feasible, but they wanted to do some diligence on 5G and basically projecting out the 5G signal and using a UAS to kind of show that, okay, if we put a 5G communication, I'm not a telecom expert, so
Right.
my language here is novice at best. But if we put one of those 5G towers on this existing structure, not even necessarily a cellular tower, what is the coverage going to look like? What area are we going to be able to project that out and provide that 5G? So again, an interesting concept of how can we use a tool, a drone, to get more intelligence and make a better business decision about where we should install these 5G units and how is that going to affect the community, because everybody is concerned about it and what have you. So that never didn't materialize for us. I don't know if they ended up working for another drone service provider, but it was an interesting idea. And again, supporting, cellular, telecom, critical infrastructure with UAS.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's another sector called the commercial facilities, and that includes stadiums and things of that nature. We had Tony Drummond from Global Aerial Management on here last week talking about her drone disinfecting business and how she's helping open up that industry and the entertainment sector that's part of that. Paul, you and I talked during my interview. I don't think it made its way into the magazine though, about a project y'all did with some of your pilots in Las Vegas, right? As they were building the Raiders, the new Raiders stadium, right?
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about that, like in the context of the commercial facility sector.
we're now able to talk about this, and most people have probably seen it. It's been on Monday Night Football and what have you. If you haven't, go check it out on YouTube. This stadium is incredible. It's state of the art in every way, and the developers, the builders, and I'm sure we were not the only company that was flying drones during this project because there were so many stakeholders. But throughout the construction process, we were doing, construction progress documentation of that stadium. It's right next to the airport, so we had to get special authorizations from McCarran. But we flew that quite frequently throughout the building process, creating topographical models to help with cut fill analysis or at the early stages when they were moving dirt, all the way through when they went vertical. And then we were flying internally
Oh,
during
wow.
the construction process as well. And then they really kind of, they started to get to know our team. They knew that we had all the authorizations. So after completion, they kept us on to do a lot of marketing shots for their team. And I don't know, I can't say for certain, but I know a few of them have made it into, TV commercials, other things. And we most recently did a really cool project with them. And I encourage everybody to check this out because it sounds awesome. Eventually, I'm sure I'll make it down there to do this. They have the Raiders experience. It's a tour of the stadium. You get to tour the stadium, go to the locker rooms, check out the suites, stand next to the flame that's close to the window, and go on this amazing tour of this amazing stadium. And so we flew internally to kind of help promote that and show them some of the unique places they were going to get to go and flying a drone through the stadium. And that was a really cool project too. So the client we were servicing throughout that whole process changed throughout the phases.
Yeah.
But from start to finish, they were using drones for that commercial facility development and marketing.
I mean, you've just ticked, so many different squares here. We talked about, topography and mapping, inspection, marketing and construction, progress reporting. And I imagine they're using your folks at DroneHive and your company, Paul, because it's saving them a ton of time and money. I imagine the investors and the folks that were building that stadium could sit in their offices, not have to fly out to Vegas repeatedly, and get regular progress reports, and a picture paints 1,000 words. And you guys were providing that. So, these are all, you use the term drones for good. These are clearly drones for good stories. And just want to take 1 second, since we were talking about stadiums, to throw in once again a plug for White Fox Defense. There's so many, unfortunately, non-compliant people that try to fly around stadiums, and White Fox, that's what they specialize in, right? With their Stratus and their Drone Fox system. So thanks again, White Fox. This is our last episode that they've sponsored for this month, the entire month. So thank you again for that. Let's transition to the food and agriculture sector, because this precision agronomy is so hot right now. And I know this is something also near and dear to your heart, Paul, because, I believe from our previous discussions, you are, also at heart an environmentalist, very conscious about, improving society. And I know this is a passion project for you, this farming and precision agronomy. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing in that space.
So, they've been using drones for agriculture and corn and soybean, commodity products for the last few years. It's gotten a lot of traction, and it's growing into other sectors as well, specialty crops. Farmers need to be able to grow more crops, better crops, and especially high value crops, they can afford to use high tech approach and spend more money because they're going to be able to make more money. But the more interesting aspect of this for me has been that we're flying small test plots. We are helping with seed companies and companies that are focused on more on R&D, on phenotypes and applicants and different seeds and different environments, and flying these plots, even that are sometimes just next to each other. And all we're doing, to be clear, is collecting the data. But we're helping to do this across the US, right? These test plots exist all over the place, and there's a reason for that. They're strategically located in different types of environments with different types of conditions for growing. And so we're flying all these different very small test plots, and our partners are analyzing that data and providing that data back to these very forward-thinking agronomists who are working with these plants, all types of different plants too. We're talking strawberries all the way through to the commodities, and just helping them figure out how can we grow more food more efficiently to feed more people at a lower cost. And I know that this is getting a lot of traction in Africa. I've interacted with some people in Western Africa who are, really trying to figure out, and they're kind of like jumping the critical infrastructure gap they jumped with cell phones. Well, they didn't need to install a hardline telecom system when they could just, kind of leapfrog the technology straight into the cell phone era. And I think that's what they're doing, is they're moving from kind of, old world farming techniques straight into this high-end precision agriculture because they realize they have so many mouths to feed. So again, it's the drone is a tool, right? We're just using the drone to collect the data. If we could collect the data with the satellite, I know many people are just using satellites, a lot of manned aircraft. The drone is just one other layer of that. And we've been asked to do this, flying very low, very slow over very small plots of land, whereas when you're looking at a huge corn, soybean field, it might be best to fly a manned aircraft over that 100,000 acres, right? That might be a more efficient way to do it. But we're getting pulled into this kind of R&D, GMO, seed development world. And it's just cool to see what's going on and the strides that are being made in precision agriculture to help, again, use drones for good and feed the world.
Yeah, so just a couple fun facts here. The precision agriculture market using drones, GPS technology, geographic information systems, or GIS tools, right now is estimated to reach 430 million by 2025. I mean, that's only 4 years from now. And then one report is saying that the drone agriculture market will almost be double the worth of just precision ag, to the tune of about 8 billion plus by 2026, just 2 years later. So, I mean, this is an area that's going to continue growing. By the way, we have Freddie Buenrostro, if I didn't butcher your name, Freddie. He's saying, drones are absolutely the future. I recently received my 107, eager to dive into this industry. Currently a survey tech for a land survey company. Glad to be watching this video. Well, Freddie, we're glad to have you, and thanks for that positive encouragement. We love to hear from our fans, and I know Paul appreciates it as well. Paul, let's talk about maybe some of these other sectors. Boy, there's so many. We're not going to hit them all, and I definitely want to save a couple minutes at the end, of course, to talk about some of your successes and what you see next for DroneHive. Look, we've got transportation sector, healthcare, everything from dams and water and wastewater, things like this. Is there anything you wanted to add about some of the other really cool stuff that you guys are doing to support critical infrastructure?
Yeah, I think that a topic that's near and dear to a lot of the Westerners' hearts right now is wildfires.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, look, we dedicated a whole podcast to it.
Yeah,
Todd Steen and Ben Miller.
I don't want to just beat a dead horse or talk about something that you guys have already spoken about, but we've been choked by smoke all summer. I live in Marin, and one of the contributing factors we moved away from that was because of the annual fire season, and you know, it's just pervasive everywhere. And
It is.
you know, PG&E has been using drones for quite some time, so this isn't anything new. But there is, you know, a very interesting analytics that are now being used. Companies that are focusing more on, you know, utilities inspection with AI and machine learning, and also focusing on, you know, vegetation loads. And what we're doing now is working across Western states with the utilities to look at fuel load risk management. Where are the areas of highest risk that we really need to address now? And
Hey, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but just to make this patently obvious, how does that tie into wildfires?
Okay, yeah. So all of these fires, and I believe the Dixie fire has been confirmed as well. PG&E was forced to turn over some of its drone data for this by FEMA. Anyway, these utilities, the power lines, distribution lines, transformers, you know, they're aging systems, and they are oftentimes through forests because they have to get through forests, and they're starting fires, right? They're
Oh my
having
gosh, yeah,
malfunction,
yep.
and they're sparking the fire. And you know, and this can be managed by analyzing the transmission lines, the power lines, flying them, looking at the vegetation load. And it's not just for utilities. You know, Park City is looking at all of its land, and we're in discussion to fly all of the open space, do an analysis on vegetation load. Where are the areas they need to focus on now, and methodically use their funding to clean those up so that we don't have another Parley's Canyon fire. We recently had a fire just a few miles away from here. It was very scary for our community. It was only a few hundred acres. It pales in comparison to what's going on in California.
Well, and all around the world, Paul. I
All around the
mean,
world,
literally the world.
everywhere.
I
You
mean, I
know?
think Greece was asking the United States to send help. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
this is happening everywhere.
we can use this tool to, you know, remove the fuel load, prevent forest fires. You know, we need to manage our forests. You know,
Yes.
we've allowed it to go too far. We said, let's just let them touch. Well, that's not what happened traditionally. These Mount Tam would burn every 10 to 15 years, you know, and that's
Yes.
in the shadow of Marin. So I think people have finally accepted this, and it's not just about climate change. This is just about safety for our communities at this point. So that's one thing that I think I'm really passionate about, because, you know, it just affects us all. Our children can't play outside, and it's horrible for the entire, I mean, shoot, I heard we had a flight delayed for a construction progress documentation for a project out in Indianapolis. And the
Yeah.
flight was delayed because of poor visibility. There was so much smoke making its all the way to Indianapolis that we couldn't fly. So
Yeah.
that's one big thing. I mean, the list goes on and on. We have,
Well, hey, Paul, I'm in Colorado, and I feel you because, well, it was just a couple of weeks ago. I think the city of Denver, Colorado actually was rated as the worst, you know, kind of environmental atmosphere for that one given day, like globally. Like that is absolutely frightening. And so I love what you're doing in the space. Actually, this is not repeating what we talked a couple podcasts ago with Todd and Ben. You know, they were talking about after the fire, all, you know, kind of dropping seed to do the reforestation, but this
yes,
vegetable load, this vegetation load concept and using drones. I mean, really, we're talking, you know, kind of end-to-end solution involving drones. And I would love to link you up with Todd and the Advanced Mobility Collective, because this is something clearly they're very passionate about, just like you. But let's in the couple minutes we have left, because we only have about maybe 6 minutes to go here, Paul. Tell me, as you reflect, what would you say is kind of DroneHive's biggest win?
man, I think it's making it through the first 3 years.
Yeah, for any new company, right?
First 3 years with a very small team, in a brand new environment, with a lot of shackles around us that were kind of in place by the FAA, unfortunately, and becoming a profitable company without any external investment support. You know, I'm very proud that all of our growth has been organic. We're all employee owned and operated. It's a small internal team, but we can hire and grow quickly because of the simplicity of our business model. It truly is a fairly simple business model when you strip it all down. But what makes it complex is the environment we're operating in, and that so much of what we've done has never been done before, and so we had so many learning experiences about doing things the wrong way, doing things the right way, and just having to figure it out because there was no roadmap. So just sticking with it and not giving up and pushing through when times were hard and clients were hard to come by, and we were going to conferences and there were limited end users there, and it was just so much force that needed to be applied. But here we are, and we've turned the corner, and so many industries are now starting to rapidly adopt this technology, not just the leading innovators anymore. Now we're talking about almost all of the construction companies are thinking about, okay, wait, everybody's starting to use this, maybe we should be using it too. Even the most, I hate to admit, unsophisticated, right? But that's where we're at. I think we've just barely started to scratch the surface on so many levels in so many industries, and people are awake to the fact that the technology is safe, it provides great intelligence, and it's time to adopt and explore how it can help their businesses. So that would be my greatest achievement, was just not giving up. There were some times there when I didn't know if this industry was ever going to go anywhere, but we had to hold the faith and continue to drive things forward, even when it was tough, and show the FAA and work with the FAA and all those committees and ARCs and everything. So it was a joint effort. We were all in it together, and it was at times seemed like a small industry. But now there's so many new companies, I have a hard time keeping up with all of them.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's never a dull moment. It's job security for me, because that's what I do, is I talk about companies and what people are doing in this space. And every day it's like, oh, I never heard of that one. Let's learn about this one now. And you're absolutely right. And I will say, Paul, it's really a testament to your own leadership that you were able to survive. DroneHive was able to survive through those tough times, and that you've built it up to what it is. And just listening to all the different use cases that your pilots are out there doing and contributing to society, it's just absolutely amazing. So thank you for what you do. And we really only have about 2 minutes. So I'm going to ask you, Paul, to please let us know what's on the horizon and how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for those words. And, thanks for everything that you're doing for the industry too, Don. It's important stuff. So as far as the future holds, it's growth, right? We're a reactive business model when it comes down to it. Our clients have looked at the technology, they've made the decision they're going to go all in, they've maybe tested it at a small scale, and now they need to go throughout their entire operation. And that's where we come in, as we assist with the scalability. So we've proven we can scale a number of different types of aerial data collection nationwide for consistent quality and repeatability and reliability, right? Being able to collect it when it's needed, on time, in a consistent fashion. So we've proven that out in a number of different use cases: facility inspection, construction, other things. Now the challenge is the other more sophisticated advanced inspections, thermal, LiDAR, and multispectral. We've been scaling multispectral this summer. It's challenging. Agriculture is challenging by nature. There's less people there. It's sparsely populated. They have less equipment. So how are we going to scale more sophisticated aerial data collection operations? And we've been figuring that out with thermal and multispectral now. 2020, I think we'll start focusing more on LiDAR. And the challenge for that is the cost of the equipment. We can't go out and purchase these very expensive systems without some sort of semblance or insight into future demand and whether we're going to be able to put it to work. And that's always been the balance and the hard part about being a drone service provider. Do I buy this M200 with the LiDAR, or should I invest in the Phantom 4 multispectral? Where am I going to get more revenue with this tool?
Yeah.
And, we're starting to see some clarity in the future and future demands that is allowing us to invest in this equipment, smartly, without, breaking the bank or sending us into potential bankruptcy because we've had too much capital expenditure. So that's what the future holds, is scaling these more complex aerial data collections with these more advanced sensors, and just then keeping up with demand, right?
Yeah.
Fostering this workforce. How many pilots are we going to need? Keeping up with the training. And then Part 135, right? How are we going to scale Part 135? Where are those pilots going to come from? Are we going to pull them from manned aviation? We're seeing a lot of that now. You know, there is a push and there is interest from the manned aviation community to say, you know, maybe I don't need to get in that chair and get up into 30,000 feet. Maybe I can have a successful career here with my feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that we're turning the corner there too. Or
It's
do we
like-
train new pilots to become Part 135? Or is it a balance on that? So, you know, the drone delivery community is looking at that, and we're having those discussions right now with a number of these companies. And, you know, it's not just Walmart, right? It's not just,
yeah, it's going to be everybody.
Amazon, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And so we're helping to solve that challenge with them, because we're bringing the unmanned aviation operational experience to the table. They've already had aviation in their departments in FedEx and UPS, so they can bring that manned aviation, and then trying to mold the two and make sure it's safe and scalable, and, you know, and that it's actually worthwhile too. You know, is this going to impact society in the way that everybody talks and hopes, or is it really just a pathway to urban air mobility? And drones are really just proving that it's safe, and the corridors and the communications, and really where the big impact is going to be is urban air mobility with moving people around.
Yeah.
So it's a mystery to me. I don't know what the future holds, but we're here to support it and give it our best effort and do whatever we can to, you know, make the industry grow and hopefully impact society.
Absolutely. And you're already doing it, Paul. We look forward to seeing you do it more. We'll have, I believe, your website, which is kind of a unique address, available, I believe, on the rollout clip here.
Yeah, somebody's been sitting on DroneHive, and then they just came available, and then they came to us. It's just, so we said, no, DroneHive Inc.
Yes, tell us what it is.
We're DroneHiveinc.com.
Okay.
DroneHiveinc.com. We're at DroneHive on all the platforms. You know, our landing page is pretty easy. Just click get started. You can fill out an application there, or you can put in an order for a drone flight there, depending on your interest in our services. So we should be easy to find. You can just Google DroneHive, and I think you'll get to us pretty easily.
I think you will, and I definitely recommend everybody do that. So thanks again, Paul, for being with us today. Thanks for sponsoring this episode and being with us. And for everybody else out there, exciting times tomorrow on Drone Law Connections Clubhouse. We'll have our next month sponsor guest. We've got Parazero, Aaron Gabriel from there, and Delta Drone International, which is the parent company of Parazero, and a couple others, Edin Attias as well. They're going to be beaming in from Israel, which is really exciting. And then they will actually be on this podcast next Monday to kick off a new month of movers and shakers. So thanks, everybody. We're a little bit over. Sorry about that, but out here, I know it was worthwhile. So take care. Have a great week.